Hello and welcome to my channel. I am the Psych Auto Scorer, and today I'll be talking about the WAIS-5 and the template that I created to help score it faster. If you like this template, go ahead and check out the link in the description and it should link you to my store. So let's get started on how to use this template here. So first, everything that you're going to be entering into this template is going to be in one of these yellow boxes. So please pay attention to those. And everything else, you're not going to have to touch. Before we get started in how we're going to enter it, I just want to show you that everything's blank right now and what it's going to look like towards the end. So as you can see, everything is empty. You're going to get four different tabs. First is for the primary analysis. The second is for the process analysis. Again, just looking for those yellow boxes. That's the part that you enter. All these other boxes are going to be entered in for you. And then you also get the ancillary analysis. As you can see, most of this is going to get answered for you, except for just a couple of boxes over here. And then lastly, there's the tab for graphs. There's three different graphs showing the ancillary index score profile, the primary composite score profile, and the subtest scaled score profile. All right, so let's start putting in some data and see how this changes. I did put some data here in the sides, just as some sample data, so you don't have to see me type so many numbers, and just to make things a little bit quicker. So one thing that I changed from the fourth edition is that I gave you two options here. So you can enter in the date of births over here in cell A2 and B2. It might take a second to load in. I know some people are having trouble using this format if they're using the test outside of the country because it switches the month and the day. If that does happen for you, go ahead and use this box here in D2. You can just enter the age of the person. So this person was 70 years old, so you could just type in 70 right there in D2, and that will populate the age group for you. So once you have your raw scores from doing your testing, you can enter them in here, just typing them one by one. Sometimes it can take a minute to do it just because there's so many formulas going on. So what I recommend doing is just typing them off to the side over here and then pasting them as values. Pasting them as values just makes it so you don't change the formatting or anything like that. As you can see, the equations are loading right now and the calculations are happening. All right, there it is. So just like that, you basically have all the information that you need in order to have the primary analysis completed. You'll see that we put in the raw scores, we receive the scale scores, and we also have the reference group scores over here. Under the subtest right here, we can see that the ones that are bolded are the 7 tests. Use it to calculate the FSIQ, which is over here. All these non-grayed out ones, these are the 10 primary tests to calculate the 5 primary indices down here. You'll notice that there is a new one from the WAIS with the WAIS-5 where they took perceptual reasoning and they divided it into visual spatial and fluid reasoning instead. There's also a couple different changes too in terms of scoring these things. Just looking at it now, I'll leave this note here for anyone that purchases the template here in L17. What this is saying is that there's some new rules about substitutions. The only index that can be substituted is the FSIQ, and you can only sub out one of the subtests. You cannot make any substitutions to any of these 5 indices here per the new scoring manual guidelines. So if you do want to make a change here, let's say your similarities was invalid for some reason, and you still want to calculate a FSIQ. So what that's going to do is, since you can't do any substitutions for the VCI, that one's going to be kept as missing subtest, and you're going to see like some NAs because of that. But you can still get the FSIQ. This will direct you to cells L21, which is right here, and M21. And what you'll do is you'll click the subtest that was subbed out. So we'll say similarities or SI. And then we'll sub in the new one. You can click whichever one works best for you. Probably something from the VCI category. Probably something from the VCI category. And you can see that you have the new FSIQ right here. So I'm just going to cross that out though so we can see what it looks like when we have a full set of scores. Like I said, it can take a second for these calculations to load up just because of how many calculations are used afterwards. So you can see down here that we have the sum of scaled scores that are being converted to the composite scores. So these are the main index scores you're going to want to pay attention to alongside their percentile rank and their confidence interval. If you do want to change the confidence interval over here, what you'll do is you'll change it in the settings option right here. So you can change that to the 90th percentile or the 95th. So if we change it to 90th, you'll see that this says 90 now, and these have changed down here. We'll keep that to 95 though, just because that's the pretty much standard. Additionally, when we get down to this index level strengths and weaknesses right here, you have the option of choosing the MIS as a comparison score or the FSIQ. To change that, you'll change it in cell B29. So you can change it to the FSIQ or the MIS, and it will change the value over here in C29. Once we get to the index level pairwise difference comparisons, this will show you if there's any significant differences, and it'll want you to check it based on different significance level and whether or not you want to do it by age group or by overall group. To change that, the age group or overall group, you can change it right here in cell B33. And if you want to change the significance value, that'll be B28 over here. You can change it from 0.05 to 0.01, whichever you prefer. But I'm going to leave this as is because this is the typical standard. So if you're not sure what to do, I would just leave it like this. All right. You can also see the subtest level strengths and weaknesses. So that's just comparing it to the MS-P. You should use the MS-P if you have all 10 primary subtests. If not, you should switch it over to the MSS-F. I have a note right here in cell D30 just to remind you of that. Additionally, I have a note right here for the MIS, whether or not you should use it compared to the FSIQ. You should use the MIS if all 5 primary index scores are available, meaning all of these scores have actual values and doesn't say missing subtest. Down here, you can do an index level pairwise difference comparison. What's cool about this is I added some additional comparisons. These are the standard ones that the manual gives you, and they come with base rates. However, they also give some critical values for different some different subtest comparisons. So if you wanted to compare like block design to similarities, you could just pop that in right there, and it'll let you know if there's a significant difference as well as the critical value. All right. Moving on to the process analysis. Again, you'll want to enter in the new value or the raw scores here. And whenever I paste these in, it's always just helpful to do paste values only. So paste special values. It takes a minute for the scores to load in. And you can see the process level pairwise difference comparisons. Basically, just comparing the two different not raw scores, but the scaled scores for the different values over here. Additionally, sorry, I keep wanting to call them subtests, but not subtests. Sorry about that. Anyways, so you also have the raw scores over here with the base rates and additional comparisons down here. Next is the ancillary analysis. This shows a lot of different indices that they wanted to add to it to give additional context. If you want to change the confidence interval, you can change it from 90% to 95%, whichever you prefer. I leave it at 95% because that's pretty standard and typical. We do have the non-motor substitution over here. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit, just to make that a little easier to read. And what we can see here is for the non-motor non-motor index right here, it has the option to substitute. You can only substitute one value. Um, so if you were going to do that, you would sub out, let's say similarities, and then you'd sub in whichever new one you're going to use, like that, and you'll see that the non-motor value has changed. All right, we'll clear that. We also have some comparisons between the different ancillary indices, as well as some additional subtests, pairwise comparisons. Lastly, we'll look at the different graphs. I think this is pretty self-explanatory, but just want to show you that when you enter in the raw scores, you'll get this graph populated with the scaled scores and with the composite scores on all three of these graphs. And I hope this has been helpful. If you like the video, go ahead and subscribe because I'm making some more of these tests, and this will help you find more based on what you use in your practice. All right, thank you very much.